Yeah, can you darken the backlights a little bit more?
Darken this.
There we go. And then actually go up just a hair, just where you had it before. Yeah, perfect. Because now they can actually see the person's name on the live stream. So that'll be good. Thank you, Ms. Then Elijah, can I have my speech from you? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Ryan, I can leave this up until we start. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll get started about 15, 20.
Okay, sounds good. Text, I'm here, and you know what?
Excuse me, y'all gotta sit in the back because these are reserved.
There's all destinations that is on the side. Go one more. What's that? But I make you
What's going on? I sit over here, he's gonna gab the whole time, like. Anybody else coming?
Yeah, mom's gonna want to get here over there. So.
Oh, you do? Thank you. I heard you went to Santa Monica too. I got them there. I'm gonna shopping. Your pictures came out really well. Yeah.
You should not always like
Old people too. Yeah.
yeah.
I wanted to be like Talia. I think mine was more.
Because the most popular ones are like the
550.
Yeah.
These are like, but these are
only dated with
Yeah, we're gonna go to some more outdoorsy stuff, so like rain, so I'm trying to do.
We had the worst one with the car. They would send us to be there. It was pouring rain. Then we went back.
Wait, did you guys?
Yeah. And then we went to another spot. We were like, yeah, I really do there. And it was there's no car. We're flying there in the same
Tour. Oh, you should. Are you even able to tour our tour was like 45 minutes. Yeah.
So what you got done so far? Yeah, my cousin's a sophomore there. It's like a little bit smaller, or vibes. Every campus has its own personality.
I like you trying to eat.
USC's not like GCU, it's like it's a nice campus and everything. You see the thing?
That'll probably be. That was the one thing about it.
Yeah, Red River's a beautiful campus, a very well managed institution, from what we can tell.
And if you also did like
They actually, they're one of the few popular campuses in most institutions. But it's funny because like Carlton, like if you get in, we meet 100% of your team. But then you look at like as you do things like, oh, well, you're lucky.
Going.
all right.
Well, the challenge is that people don't understand that the system is different than it was. And it's doubly different. Because if you're getting like, parents, like they just don't understand. It's like you can't go and like go to perfect. It's like it's kind of fake. It's literally fake, you know. You figure it's like March, like 6 months there instead of after. Well, that's the whole reason I'm start early. Like yourself.
We gave ourselves right? And then by the time not Anderson and Brady was like, whatever. More like, what?
Hello, you guys can sit in your back sections. How's it going?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has one of the similar. Well, I went to the library because it was ready for me, and then I returned it like I knew I was going to do it. That's a part of how it's sold to me. And then you're like, it shows how they're like, and then when I was there at the library, I was there.
talking.
When he told me that they had decided to, like, I was like, I guess.
Well, you can see the lighting setup, so you can that's another.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, can you guys hear me all right out there? Yes. All right. Welcome to the third annual TED Talk night. I'm Mr. Donovan. I have been lucky enough to be the co-sponsor of this great club for the last 3 years, along with Mr. Backstrom. And one of the things I want to start off with is just going over the success this club has had so far this year, and over the last 2 years. So this is our third live event, and in our first 2 years alone, our TED Talks have been seen by over 600 different viewers, both in person and at home. And this is really a testament to the kids that you'll see tonight. We have 7 amazing students at Boulder Creek who are going to give some TED Talks about topics that they are passionate about. I've seen these young kids grow their ideas and their passions into full-blown speeches that have the power to change the world. I hope that all of you guys are as inspired as I am by these amazing students. Now, before we get started, a couple things. First, please make sure the cell phones are silenced. Please save all applause until the end of the speech. And last but not least, no flash photography so that we can avoid distractions for our speakers. Without further ado, we're going to start first with Christian Martinez. Christian is going to give a speech about the power of confidence. Come on up, Christian.
Now, can you all do something? I'd like you to close your eyes and imagine you are an employer at a very important business. Now, at this business, you have the task to find the perfect person for this job. You have 2 resumes that you've narrowed it down to. Both are exactly the same. All you have to do is look at the interview. So, first guy walks in. It's door knocking, just so you know. Anyways, hi, my name is Charlie. Now, I'm sure that you've looked at my resume, and that's why I'm here. Well, it's an honor to meet you. Thank you. Walks out. Second guy, still at the door, right? My name is David. You looked at my resume, right? Okay. I'm just gonna out now. Okay. Okay. You can open your eyes now. That is the end of the interview. Now, 9 out of 10 people said that they'd pick the first guy. When asked why, they said confidence. Now, what is confidence? Well, confidence is assurance. It's assurance in oneself and one's abilities. However, this assurance is not an arrogant assurance. It's more of a trusting assurance. Anyways. So how do we build this? How can we develop confidence? Forbes magazine has some excellent ways to. See, Forbes magazine, it says, you can try new foods. That means if I'm from India, I traditionally eat Indian food. I can try some Chinese food or European food. All these different nationalities of food. I can try them all to see what I like, just because they're new. Or another one was talking to new people. This is a very important one because it can help build your social ability and when you're talking to people, it can help you. These new people, they can give you business connections that you can use throughout your lifetime. They can eventually be your friend, possibly. Like, I used to be really shy. I followed some of these steps, and now some of these people that I didn't know, I didn't want to talk to because I was scared, they're now some of the best people that I've known in my life. These are some of my best friends, and I don't know how I went on without them. It's all because I decided to have the confidence to talk to them. So what I want you to walk away with is, if you're shy, if you're scared, or even if you're not, I want you to walk away and try some of these things to grow your confidence, to build upon it, so that you can experience some of the things that I have. It's been an honor to talk to you all. Goodbye.
All right, thank you. Now, next up we have Coulter, CJ. And TJ's going to talk about one of the small gestures that can make a really big difference in our life. And that's the idea of eye contact and how it leads to more deep, meaningful social connections. Come on up.
Hello. It's good to see you all. How should we start this? I want you guys to raise your hand if actually, no. That's been done a million times before. Instead, I want you guys to whistle. Yeah, whistle. Whistling's fun. Or blowing, if you can't whistle. I want you guys to whistle or blow if you have ever in your life made eye contact with someone and then looked away. Go ahead, I want to hear it. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that. Now, if you did nothing, I must presume you are either lying or you're inhuman. But for those of you who were kind enough to be honest, I want you to think on that. Why do we, as people, look away? Why do we avoid eye contact with each other? What makes us so uncomfortable to do so? And I hope by the end of tonight, you will have an answer to that and a solution. When I was a wee lad, I remember something that my mother once taught me, which is that as people grow older, their hair will grow white, and the hands will gnarl, the skin will sag, but the one thing that never changes is the beauty and majesty of someone's eye. The eye doesn't darken or age with time. Rather, it remains the same. And in addition, the eye is also the only sense in the human body that requires being in full openness of the world around it in order to perceive it. You see, the ears are entombed inside the head, the tongue for tasting is inside the mouth, the nose for smelling, the actual receptors are way up here, close to the brain. And for feeling and touching things, that's all the nerves are buried underneath skin and muscle and tissue and all this stuff. But the eyes, for them to see, they have to be completely unveiled, hence the term the naked eye. So why am I bringing this up? I want you guys to whistle or blow again if you've ever heard of the term, eyes are the window to the soul. Go ahead. All right, that's good, that's good. Now, it's unknown who coined this term, per se. However, that doesn't make it any less true. In fact, I would argue to say that it is true in a more literal sense than we may think. You see, let's imagine this for a second. If we were to take our body and all the stuff that our body is made of and put it to the side, and so what would you have left? So let's just imagine if I were to take all my organs, my skin and stuff and put it over there. I reconstruct my body, it's over here. But what's here? And we can see that we could call this us, but in a deeper sense, we could call this our soul or our spirit. Now, if you're the more science-based type, you could call this your conscience. It doesn't matter. I just want you to accept for the moment that's there. So this soul of ours uses the body as a tool. It animates the body in order to perceive the world around it. It uses all the senses so that it can get familiar and know the world. And so, the unique thing about the eye is that it actually shares some traits that the soul may have. You see, the body ages with time, but the soul does not. Just how the eye doesn't wrinkle or darken with time, it remains the same, as if it were immortal. And, in addition, the eye is also what allows the soul to see most of the world around it. What makes the eye unique is that because of its openness, it's as if the soul is looking through our body in a new sense. So, we can see that you can call the eye a literal window for the soul, that it can look and see the world. Now, what do you think happens when it looks through the window and it sees another window? And through that window is another soul. We call this eye contact, in which we meet another's gaze visually. What happens is that we make this new level of communication through the eyes, and it feels uncomfortable because it's sending a message that says, I am focused, I have my complete attention on you. And so, through the power of eye contact, we feel uncomfortable when we have this mind to mind, or this soul to soul, this heart to heart, and we look away. So I want to do a little experiment here. I need a volunteer from here, someone in the audience, preferably someone closer. I'll see. Hit it? All right. Okay, so this is I just want you to look at me in the eyes, and I'll look at you in the eyes. Now, this feels strange, doesn't it? It feels weird. It feels awkward for both of our sakes, I'll be honest here. But I want to say that what that is our souls recognizing and focusing on each other. Out of all the people in the audience right now, you are the person who has my utmost attention, and presumably likewise back to me. And so, with this new level of communication, this visual, unspoken, and rather undefinable level of spiritual communication, we are having a conversation much deeper than anyone here. Can you feel it? I can feel it. That's good. All right, we can stop now. So I'd just like to end with a little challenge for all you. I challenge you, whether with your family, with your friends, or with strangers, I want you to retain a conversation, and in it, do your best to maintain eye contact. And it'll feel awkward. It'll feel strange. It'll feel weird because of these new connections, these new ways of communicating with people. But that's good. It is improving your ability to speak and their ability to listen because you're living a new, higher way of communication. I'd like to conclude and just say that I think it is vital for each of us to interact in the deepest means of communication that we possibly can, for it can and it will unite us in a new companionship that is much stronger and firmer than we now know and that we now have. I invite you to look to each other, and not just to see each other, but as a new way to speak to each other. Thank you.
Another incredible speech. Thank you, CJ. Next up, we have Ashley. So Ashley is going to talk about one of the most discussed topics probably in the world at this time, and it's stress. And she's going to give you guys some insight and advice on how we can handle this often seen conflict in our own lives. Welcome up, Ashley.
Don't cry over spilled milk. This is usually what our parents tell us when we begin to overreact about something that's not worth getting upset about. But some days, something as small as being out of my favorite cereal can set me off and ruin my entire day. It's unreasonable to let cereal, or lack thereof, ruin my day, and I know that, which makes it even worse. When people cry over spilled milk or cereal, in my case, that's usually not the actual reason why. It's just the final straw. So picture this, a massive open space with hundreds of pools. Each pool represents a different aspect of your life. So you have your family pools, and your friend pools, and your work pool. And each pool contains water. This is stress water. My pool school is very low right now because I don't have a lot going on. However, during finals week, my pool gets a lot higher because each assignment and each exam is more water added to my pool. But what happens when your pool begins to overflow? When your pool begins to overflow, it begins to spill into all your other pools, which means that the more stress you have in one aspect of your life, the more it impacts every other aspect of your life. For example, if your family pool begins to overflow, you can see your grades start to drop and your social life might decline. This is because the stress from your family is taking up so much space in your brain that there's no room for other things like schoolwork or friends. So in the morning when I go to find that there's no more cereal left, it's something small, but it takes up space in my brain that I don't have, which pushes me over the edge. When this happens, it's easy to spiral because skills in my brain, like communication and problem solving, don't work as well. Not being able to solve problems or communicate our feelings only adds more stress and makes it harder to solve the problem. I wish I could say that there was a miracle cure for stress, but sadly there isn't. You'll always have leaks and spills, and you'll always have a hard time every once in a while. However, there are 3 steps I can give you to make it a little bit easier. The first step is to start by making a list. List every single thing that you're stressed about and be as specific as possible. I had a friend once tell me that she was stressed out about math. Math is a big subject to be stressed out about, so I asked her to be a little bit more specific. Then she told me that she was stressed about a math test. Well, there's a lot of things that can be on a math test, so I asked her to be a little bit more specific. Then she told me that there's a specific equation that she couldn't seem to remember. So I told her that was a lot more simple of a problem than math in general. So then we could work through it and it was a lot easier. Then her list of stressors was a lot smaller and a lot simpler. The second step is to take things out that aren't in your control. When I came here today, I was really stressed out because I left a candle burning in my room. However, I'm already here, so if my house is burning down, there's nothing I can do about it. The third step is to ask for help. Even though cereal or not having any cereal is a small thing to be stressed about, if I ask my mom to go to the store and to buy more cereal, it can take my stress levels down immensely. So when you go to school tomorrow or work and you begin to start feeling stressed, ask yourself the 3 questions and visualize your goals to help you bring down your stress levels. Thank you.
All right, great job. Thank you so much, Ashley. Next up is Faith. Faith is going to try to do something very difficult here. She's going to try to redefine the word success because we use this a lot. And I think she's going to give us some new perspectives that we maybe haven't considered before. So come on up, Faith.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Growing up, my friends and I always played house, something I think a lot of young children do. We would sit under the big green slide and divvy up the family roles. Someone as the mom, dad, baby sister, and of course, rebellious teen. Looking back now, I realize that even though we did this routine each day at recess an obsessive number of times, one thing that remained the same was the idea of our house in my mind. I vividly remember sitting with my best friend at the time, drawing up our future house in our minds. Of course, it was something straight out of a Barbie movie. A 10-story mansion with a floor dedicated to every kind of activity we could think of. One for shopping, swimming, eating, and of course, sleeping. Now, at my ripe age of 17, I still dream about my future, although it certainly looks a little different. I see myself living in Boston, surrounded by brick buildings enveloped in history. I imagine myself working as a biomedical engineer, developing technologies to be placed in hospitals, and maybe even raising a small family later on. While the future I dream about now is just as exciting to me as my Barbie dream house fantasy, there's certainly a stark difference between the two. Young me was filled with so much ambition. Now maybe I was naive, but I still wonder who ultimately crushed this little girl's dreams. At what point did I stop thinking this glittery dream house could be my reality? As a society, we constantly promote achievements, everyone fighting to be the best, never satisfied with where they currently are and trying to be better than they were yesterday. At the beginning of each year, we make our list of resolutions. And we buy every self-help book we can get our hands on. If I were to ask you to think of some of the most successful people in our world today, you might think of Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, or maybe even the Kardashian family. What do all of these people have in common? Fame and fortune. They have millions of dollars and are in the public eye, with thousands of people who worship the ground they walk on. We oftentimes define success in material objects and shallow concepts. In order for something to be valuable, we must show it off to the world. Our newest car, blossoming relationship, or most recent athletic accomplishment. But most importantly, we define success as being perfect, never having a bad day. In order to be successful, you must never have a cheat day, get 100 on a test, and get it right the first time. Our definition of success is extremely narrow. There are 7 billion people in this world. Are we really expecting everyone to fit into the same standard? As a student myself, I have noticed the number of people that surround me, constantly trying to be better than the person next to them. As Teddy Roosevelt once said, comparison is the thief of joy. Don't get me wrong, a little competition is sometimes inspiring. But after a test is passed back, I can guarantee that just about everyone in the room is asking each other the exact same question. What did you get? Everyone wants to know they're doing better than someone else or more successful than another person. And we oftentimes, if a student answers a question right the first time, they're perceived to be more successful than a student who had to try a few times. But are we going to discredit the effort and perseverance of the student who had to try a few times? Is that not considered a form of success? But most importantly, because we have linked success to perfection, many people don't want to fail because they think it will put a dent in their level of success. According to a Stanford study, showed that children with fixed mindsets are more likely to choose an easier jigsaw puzzle than are more likely to redo an easier jigsaw puzzle than try a more difficult one. Many people would rather not try something new because than in an attempt to avoid failure than to try something new. But how are we supposed to grow as individuals and as a society if no one is willing to take risks? Failure is a natural, healthy part of life. As Thomas Edison once said, I have not failed 10,000 times. I have successfully found 10,000 ways that will not work. To me, success is more than a certain number of friends, followers, clothes, and letter grade or amount of money. Success is being a kind and compassionate human being, offering a warm heart and love to everyone, even your enemies. Going out of your way to help others, building each other up, but most importantly, not letting someone else's achievements discredit your own personal progress. We are supposed to build each other up, not tear each other down. Isn't it more impressive to say that you had the courage to stand up for someone when no one else would than to have a certain number of digits in your checking account balance? Ultimately, your definition of success is up to you. Whether a Barbie mansion or CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, the choice is yours. Just remember that there is not one singular idea of being successful, and the road to success does not have to be lonely or perfect all the time. Thank you.
Another incredible speech. Thank you, Fabi. Next up, we have Talia. So Talia is going to focus on the connection between our phones and the world around us. And she's going to get us to look at the world a little bit differently with this connection. So Talia, come on up.
Hello, everyone. Now, before I start my talk, I have a question for all of you. How many of you in the audience own a phone? And if you do, I'd love for you to raise your hands. All right, just about all of us, I see. Okay, keep them up, keep them up. If you bought that phone used, you can now put your hands down. But if you bought it new, I'd love to see on your fingers how long you've had that phone. Got some twos, some more twos, some ones. Oh, we've got a 5. Oh, wow. All right. You guys can all put your hands down as I tell you the story of the phone in your back pocket. Now, let's start at the beginning. And I'm not talking about your beginning or my beginning with the phone. I'm talking about the beginning that starts with 15-year-old Elodie, carrying her baby on her back as she stands bent over a pool of water made toxic by runoff. She muddies her feet in the water as she searches for precious heterogenite stones containing cobalt. She labors for 11-hour days just to collect enough cobalt to earn her 50 pence, or 65 US cents. 65 US cents is all Elodie has to support herself and her son. As a 15-year-old orphaned by the deaths of both of her parents in cobalt mines, Elodie has no one to help her and nowhere to turn to. Unfortunately, Elodie's story isn't unique. In fact, it's not even uncommon. 60% of the world's cobalt is mined in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where Elodie lives. And over 225,000 Congolese people are cobalt miners, working long hours for abysmal wages, just like Elodie, so that we can have the batteries that are in our phones. Anywhere from 35,000 to 40,000 of these cobalt miners are kids, some starting work at as young as 7. Not only is the industry of mining cobalt exploitative to the people, it's exploitative to the land, the natural resources, the environment. Mining waste pollutes rivers and drinking water, making it unusable. The dust from pulverized rocks causes respiratory issues for the people. The gamma rays emitted from the unrefined cobalt have been proven to cause cancer, and the carbon dioxide emitted while mining cobalt hurts the atmosphere. However, it's not just cobalt. Tin, tungsten, tantalum, these are all what are called conflict minerals, and they're all needed for the manufacturing of our phones. Each one with its own rap sheet of human rights and environmental violations, much like the one I just gave you for cobalt. But back to the story of your phone. The Congolese cobalt is sent off to Chinese refineries in the Congo. They use fossil fuels to turn the heterogenite into crude cobalt hydroxide. This process is called blasting. Blasting causes the release of nitrogen oxide. When released into the environment, nitrogen oxide causes the growth of harmful algae blooms. They overrun bodies of water and they kill off native species. Next, the crude cobalt hydroxide is sent off for further refining in China, only to be sold to other Chinese companies who will turn around and sell it to American corporations or suppliers to American corporations, such as Foxconn and SEB, who manufacture for Apple and Samsung respectively.
This long process of buying and selling from one Chinese company to the next is their way of material laundering. So they can claim they don't support child labor, unfair working hours, extortion, even if their feeder companies do. But that's no matter. Once all the parts of your phone have finally reached the factory, that must be it. There can't possibly be anything else. Right? Well, not exactly. Foxconn, the manufacturer for Apple, has a long history of overworking their employees. There have been sightings of security guards beating employees, and in their Hunan province factory, it was found that there were 3,000 kids under the age of 16 working the assembly lines. But nevertheless, your phone, my phone, our phones are here. And here they sit in our back pockets. By no means am I telling you that you should never buy a new phone. That would be unreasonable. But if we could all just keep our phones 1 year more than we usually do, it would have the equivalent effect of taking 2 million cars off the road. And with all that money you're not spending on a new phone, please, for Elodie's sake, support organizations like Amnesty International and Coteco so that we can build a healthier, safer world for all of us. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Talia. Another great speech. Next up, we have Maria. Yeah. So Maria is going to give a great talk about how we can reshape our health education in order to better suit the needs of our students.
Let's have the talk. Yes, that talk. If you're thinking about how awkward and uncomfortable it might be to have the talk right now, especially in a school setting, think about the first time you learned about sex. It was probably awkward and uncomfortable, and all you wanted to do was leave the room and forget you heard anything. But why do we feel like this? Who made us feel like that? And why do we continue to push this shame and awkwardness onto teenagers today, especially while in high school? And furthermore, why do people want to stop talking about it completely? These are all questions I've pondered over my time in high school, especially as a teenager. I've grown up in Arizona all my life, where sex education is not mandatory. If it is taught, abstinence is pushed, leaving students to feel confused and neglected. According to a survey I conducted among my fellow classmates, about 85% believe that not enough information was given while they learned sex ed, and 88% believe that it is the school's responsibility to educate them on sex ed. This has left many teenagers to turn to other sources of information, mainly from the internet, where they are free from shame and harsh opinions. However, while I have learned more from one glance at the Planned Parenthood website than an entire unit dedicated to sex education at school, the internet can portray harmful and unrealistic relationship expectations, especially with the increasing use of the internet in this day. With the potential exposure to pornography, especially with having phones in the hands of every kid in America, it is even more vital that we educate everyone, especially teenagers, on the importance of sex education. The start of this shame and awkwardness comes from our surroundings as teens and children, especially when hitting puberty. Within middle school, we were given only 1 hour to discuss these changes that we were going through during puberty from the ages of 12 to 13. Only 1 hour. How can anybody possibly expect children to understand the complicating yet normal bodily functions of themselves at that age? Furthermore, we were split up between the boys and the girls, and were only given information regarding our body parts. As we headed back to class with our pads and our pamphlets in hand, we were made to hide them and to feel shame, and to not even answer questions that the boys might have had about what we learned. Then high school came. While I was unsure of what health class had ahead for me, I knew we had to discuss sex ed. However, the conversation started as soon as it ended. It was brought up and shut back down, with abstinence being the only source of birth control mentioned. Not to mention, not a single piece of information given about different sexualities, only assuming that the students in the room were straight. The lack of the information was astounding to me, leading to not only me, but to other students having to search elsewhere to answers to our endless questions. I later learned that Arizona is among many states who do not mandate sex education. And within our district, we stress abstinence when the time comes to discuss sex in class. It's unbelievable to me. How could those in charge of our education not see the benefits that come with learning about sex? In countries such as Sweden, sex ed is mandatory throughout the nation, leading to them to have one of the lowest teen birth rates of any country in the world. However, the United States has no such program, and they leave the states to decide whether or not sex education should be mandatory, leading us to have one of the highest teen birth rates in the world, with 15 to 19 births per year per 1,000 girls under the age of 18. The change to a more inclusive and judgment-free environment starts with us. While many of you in the audience are parents, or one day will be, recognizing the facts over your feelings is the most important thing when it comes to sex education. Fact number 1. When you tell someone not to do something, especially a teenager, they're gonna do it anyways. Research and studies show that strategies and curriculums promoting abstinence-only education do not stop or even delay sexual activity and puts teens at a greater risk of pregnancy. This may be insane for some to hear, but it's completely true. These programs do not hide students from the risks, only from the fear of having it. Without the knowledge to protect themselves, they are left at a greater risk than before. Fact number 2, we want to know about our bodies and how to protect ourselves. Comprehensive sex education benefits students by allowing them to see and understand healthy relationship dynamics, and can even delay sexual activity, according to a study done by Pennsylvania State University. They're more informed about birth control and various contraception methods, and are more likely to practice safe sex. Given these resources, we'll use them to our advantage rather than making stupid decisions when the time comes. Fact number 3. It's going to be extremely awkward whenever you decide to give the talk. So be sure to provide a safe environment for everyone involved. The last thing we want as children and teenagers is more awkwardness. But this conversation and its lessons are some of the most important pieces of information that we'll have to receive in our lives. Providing a safe space for the other is crucial in order for them to better understand this complicating and confusing process of life. Along with this, ensuring that you are including factual information rather than myths or fear tactics is just as important, as we do not want to be scared about this completely natural part of life. Overall, the most important part of sex education, in my opinion, is to raise awareness about its presence or lack thereof. Fighting for comprehensive sex education as students and parents is just one of the ways we can impact future generations for the better. Pushing for greater access to the various topics surrounding it, such as gender and sexuality inclusivity, and even menstruation, will allow us as a society to be more accepting of others and their experiences. So please, fight for this and have the talk.
All right, thank you, Maria. Last but not least is Aiden Thatcher. So Aiden has been our president for the last 2 years, and he's really done an amazing job of leading this club. His humility, his eagerness to learn, and his willingness to help others does not go unnoticed. A lot of the things that you see here, including this PowerPoint, were developed with Aiden's help. So let's give one big round of applause for Aiden.
Hello, everybody. Well, I guess now is time for my mini TED Talk. Don't worry, I won't bore you too long, but the talk within the talk. And I just want to let everybody know just of our club's gratitude for our amazing sponsors. We are so grateful for the amazing contributions of Mr. Bachstrom and Mr. Donovan. And almost every Thursday, they're with us, supporting us, helping us grow, providing us with valuable feedback, and really just creating that rich club environment that we all value. So can we just have a quick round of applause for our club sponsors? Yes. And also, thank you to all these club members. I mean, about 80% of you I harassed into joining this club. So I appreciate you doing it. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm just so proud of your speeches, and how you were able to develop and articulate your ideas over the course of the year. So yeah, but on to your future presentation, but another round of applause for everybody. All right. So, if I asked you to come up with the most boring, dull, useless topic you could think of, what would you say? Maybe you're a freshman year of high school with your algebra teacher droning on and on about the mathematical beauty or purported utility of polynomial identities. Or it could be your dad, futilely attempting some father-kid time by going deep in the weeds on the best fly fishing lure or the latest NFL stats. Or possibly some oddly specific, random, nerdy field of study, such as Caliology, study of birds' nests. But if you're anything like me a few years ago, you'd have answered that question with urban zoning maps, full of their mundane, soulless, pedantic, bureaucratic energy. Too cryptic, boring, and irrelevant for the untrained eye to even try to understand. Belonging solely within the banals of local governments, not even deserving the mental real estate of our everyday thoughts. Well, I'm here to tell you today that I was wrong, and you were wrong just now when you silently agreed with me about how urban zoning is boring. I promise that it's anything but. Not only was I wrong, but caring more about these maps is actually the key to solving climate change and curing our society of systemic social inequality. Yes, you heard me right. Those 40-page long, cryptic PDFs that nobody really reads are the ultimate answer to a better future. Okay, that might be a bit extreme. But the thing about zoning is that it impacts these issues more than compostable cups, electric vehicle, anti-racist curricula, or sustainable shopping ever will. Not only is it free from the red herring solution hype of all the aforementioned ideas, but but it's something that's extremely underrated and untapped, being an area of potentially large improvement and thus large impact, having the ability to redesign our society on the fundamental and systemic level, making true change. With urban design holding the key to our success, it's extremely problematic that it continues to lie outside the public attention, likely even being a major propagator of many of today's problems. So, what precisely is urban zoning? Well, urban zoning in America started out in the town of Euclid, Ohio, as a simple way for the town to try to keep its streets nice and clean from the polluting gloom of encroaching factories. By drawing lines on a map and dictating which types of projects could be built where, zoning was able to avoid adverse outcomes in communities by laying them out in a way that ensured that businesses and schools had significant adequate infrastructure to support them, and that toxic waste disposal sites aren't in the backyards of elementary schools. Definitely shouldn't be there. Well, supported by the courts and then dubbed Euclidean zoning, the practice of cities dictating how the land within them could be used quickly spread all around America, prompting cities to master plan entire communities. And this had a tremendous impact. It empowered individuals to work to improve quality of life in their communities by solving problems, putting out fires related to pollution, sanitation, and neighborhood character. Well, that's to say if you're privileged. And here comes a key issue that has always faced urban zoning. Who do you see at your local zoning meetings? Well, none of us really go to them. So that's to say if you even go to them at all. But stereotypically, you'd see your wall-off white retirees. Or cynically, why are those zoning maps so boring and hard to read? So you don't understand what they do and how they fit into your life. Zoning is something that's extremely consequential, yet biased in who has a say in it. This is why our lack of concern is caustic. When the privileged few are the only ones providing input to these policies, which are met with an indifference and a lack of accountability from the masses, they become the root of many problems. Our cities are built with only the interests of the few in mind, and for the perpetuation of the status quo, locking us into historical patterns of inequality and unsustainability. By definition, being the blueprint of our civilization, by using physical space to dictate our lifestyles and structure our societies. Zoning dictates all from how we get around, to what stores we shop in, to how socioeconomic class and race are distributed in our society, to what areas are noise included and what are not. By legally mandating that our housing has to be almost exclusively built in low-density, suburb-style developments, zoning is responsible for the fact that we almost always drive to our destinations rather than walking, biking, or taking public transit. Not only does this burn more fuel, but with all this having to manage larger homes, we consume more goods and use more energy, perpetuating climate change. In addition to this, zoning also ensures that commercial spaces are primarily located within strip malls surrounded by colossal parking lots. This is responsible for the fact that we really only see small businesses in small town main streets, as it places favor on chain, one-stop shop, grab-and-go establishments. Not only is this less climate friendly, but it makes our societies more unequal by sending business profits outside of our communities into the very top of the economic ladder. In addition to this, by enforcing minimum lot sizes and parking requirements, and by placing limits on building occupancy and building height, zoning also controls the types of houses that are built in an area, and by proxy, their affordability. Not only is this able to perpetuate historical patterns of inequality, a lack of housing access, unaffordability, and sustainability in our neighborhoods by preventing the development of more affordable, climate-friendly, dense buildings, but it also acts as de facto redlining By controlling where the affordable housing is within our communities, it can segregate them by class and oftentimes hold less privileged individuals away from opportunity by physically keeping them out of the areas where it lies. And finally, zoning also dictates in what neighborhoods freeways and factories are located. So thus, it controls which group of people have to face the negative brunt of human activity, something that has historically been felt by less privileged individuals. So, overall, zoning is important. It impacts a lot of things. We can be doing it a little better, and it's vital that we pay more attention to it. I can spend hours more explaining to you all the solutions to this problem. I mean, I've gone down quite a few YouTube wormholes, but I'll spare you of that. If you're curious, I would encourage you to do your own research. There are things such as mixed use and transport development, and they're really the key to our equal and eco-conscious future. But rather, we simply need to care more about this issue. The reason why urban planning has become problematic to the extent that it has is by our complacent ignorance of its even existence. It's vital that we increase our involvement in the creation of these policies and educate ourselves to reflect on how can our values be reflected in our communities and how they're built so we can build a better future. We need to foster discussions on these topics. We need to reinvigorate interest and not really let anything fall under the radar. And this is something that's really empowering. We should design our cities. They should serve us. They should reflect our values. Furthermore, it's time for a reckoning in general. Zoning is a topic that's extremely far-reaching, having a large potential for harm or hurt, and something that's systemic in nature. And really, I think systemic is the key part. It's vital that we think more about problems on a systemic scale, rather than singular aspects within our society, but really try to see how they're interlinked so we can make holistic solutions to all of our problems. This goes beyond individual or trendy solutions or isolated issues and really digs deep to the root cause of our problems. And this is kind of why systemic topics are so unsexy, but it's really why it's so vital that we understand them. So, what systemic topics are we overlooking in our society right now? How can we implement policies to encourage sustainability and equality? How are our problems interlinked? How can we design our cities and zone for a better future? Once we ask all these questions and think about our society on a systemic scale, we can make lasting, permanent, bottom-up, integrative change, and it will help us build a more prosperous, equal, sustainable, and livable society for decades to come. Thank you.
This is working now. Oh, there we go. So thank you, Aiden. I appreciate it. I hope that all of you guys have been as inspired as I am by these 7 students. I know there's a lot of talk about the future, and when I see students like this so passionate and driven, I know the future's in good hands. So I would like to give one more round of applause for our speakers, everybody. For those of you at home watching the live stream, thank you so much. I would like to call all the speakers back up, and now would be a great time for pictures if families want them. So come on up, all my speakers. Remember, before you guys leave, there's food and refreshments. I want to thank the families that had tax credit donations. They made the food and drinks possible. So thank you guys so much for coming up. Speakers, come on up.
As much as you like standing, as much as you like speaking, come on. What's up?